Bizarre Brain Comics. Hello. Gary here for Bizarre Brain Comics. This is where I like to take a look at some older comics, take a look at the characters and creators, and examine the stories and the art. Well, today I want to take a look at something chances are you've never heard of. From Charlton Comics, 1972. Ivan Tors Primus. You go, Primus? What's that? Well, this is from Charlton Comics, 1972. So we'll just see what the Big Book of Knowledge has to say about it. Okay. And what we're going to look at is Ivan Tors Primus, number 6, 1972, by Charlton Comics. Written by Gill and drawn by Joe Staton. Okay, Primus was an American syndicated TV series which aired from 71 to 72. It was an underwater adventure series featuring the adventures of Carter Primus, played by Robert Brown. And it was created and produced by Ivan Tors and ran for a total of 26 issues. Charlton Comics published 7 issues of the title in 72. And it's underwater adventure TV series. I started reading the comic long before I ever, months anyway, before I ever knew it was a TV series. And I think I only saw like one episode because it was an odd hour or something, and where I was at, and it might have been in a rerun somewhere. I don't know, because it was sometime after the comic, so it was probably a rerun somewhere. Because where I lived, we didn't get these kind of shows. We didn't even get all 3 of the major networks at the time. Okay, and Joe Staton is the artist. Born in 1948, an American comic artist, best known for co-creating the DC Bronze Age Huntress and for the Omega Men. He began his career at Charlton Comics in 71 and became known as the artist on the cult classic comic E-Man, as well as many other Charlton Comics adventure characters. And through the 70s, he also worked for Marvel and Warren Publishing, and then onto DC. DC Comics hired him to work on the Justice Society of America and other similar titles, where he co-created the Omega Men with Marv Wolfman. And in the later 80s, he was the art director for First Comics. And more recently, he drew the Dick Tracy comic strip from 2011 to 2021. I don't know what he's done since then. Probably back to doing some stuff for DC. But I don't know, since I don't read much in the way of recent comics, just because they're so expensive. I don't know what I might have seen them on. Okay. Scuba diving, underwater adventure. Lots of bubbly fun. So, let's go into the depths of the ocean with Tors Primus. Okay, and here you can see the cover, and you can see this is a worn cover. It's had some water damage, but it's still quite readable. It's in it's in respectable condition considering it hasn't been necessarily properly handled. And here's this next issue, because this one here is number 6. This is number 7. This was the last issue. Is with cover illustrations by Joe Staton. This is the last issue, in better shape. Now, I've had both of these for over 50 years. And this other one, this is issue 2. I think these, if I remember correctly, I think these are the only 2 that have drawn covers. I think all the others were photo covers. And this one, of course, is issue 2. Shows it. There you can see actor Robert Brown. It was a photo cover. And the funny thing is, this is a recent acquisition, but this is the only other issue of Primus that I've ever had. I got this one when it came out, and over the years I've lost it, but I've kept these 2. So it's funny that I now have the same 3 issues that I had 50 years ago. And it's a very exciting aquatic adventure story. I really liked it. Okay, this is the art of Joe Staton. This is when he was just beginning in his career. And I want to show you just a little look here in issue 2, because this is also Joe Staton, but his style is considerably different. It's quite adequate. There's the lovely ladies. Does a good job. Nice, realistic. It's kind of tight, very tight, and kind of stiff. There's kind of a stiffness to it. But whether it's for whatever reasons, within just a few months, his style changed quite a bit. And here his work is much looser, more stylized, with a touch of humor in the art, and a little more imaginative in the page layout and panel compositions. And we'll see that here. So, the art of Joe Staton starts off with a bang. It's written by, yeah, that's right, these were written by Joe Gill. Now remember, I've talked about Joe Gill before. He was a very prolific writer, primarily for Charlton Comics. He wrote most of what Charlton produced in the 60s and 70s into the 80s. And he is credited with being one of, if not the most prolific comic book writer in the history of the industry. I don't know if he would still be considered that or not. But I really like this illustration. I like both the cover illustrations. They're very, very eye-catching, and well, this is and dynamic. Even though this is static, it has a lot of implied action. Well, this one, it's not implied. It's right there. And then we start right off the bat with some action. Primus, he's on a job of some kind, because he's a professional diver. And he's come across these guys. Oh, they're armed, they're in camouflage, they're bad guys. What he's come across is this is in the Caribbean, and a cruise ship. Someone has thrown something over the side of the cruise ship, and it's a buoyed container of some kind, and he has retrieved it because he's there for something else. Then he's attacked by these bad guys. Oh, and you see some good panel-to-panel action here. Good aquatic action. He would have been. I would have liked to see his stuff on Aquaman myself. And he defeats the guys, tearing the mask off of one and cutting the air hose on the other, so they have to retreat. He goes back up to his boat. It's waiting for him with his compatriot. I've forgotten her name. To his boat, the Orca, and they take off, and they're being pursued. He suspects they've been pursued by a plane, and he opens it up. Yep, just what he thought. Looks like drugs, probably heroin. And then they're being pursued by a hydrofoil. That sucker's fast, and they're being waylaid. He says, "Well, at least they don't have a cannon on there." Well, that's not exactly a cannon. They had a bazooka or some kind of rocket-propelled grenade thing. Just a shot across the bow. What are we going to do? Jettison it? Nope. Yep, they have to stop, and then they're pulled over. And you can see here that the figures, faces, everything are more stylized. Everything is slightly more stylized. And I really liked Joe Staton's early work at this period. When he's doing Primus, that's one of the main reasons I liked the book, because I liked his art, and on E-Man. And I'll tell a little more later. Get on to the story. He says, "Okay, if I throw this overboard, then I'll shoot her." Oh, okay. So called his bluff. He's knocked out. The girl is taken, and he's tied up on the boat with gasoline pouring all over the place. Oh crap! What am I going to do? The place is going to blow up. They're going to kill me. They got what's her name? Yeah. I can't find her name. I've forgotten her name. Anyway, he manages to get to his dive knife, cut his bonds, and he searches the boat because they must have some kind of explosive, something to set off the fumes or the gasoline to make the boat blow up. And then he figures, it's probably right there in a little bomb right there in the gas, in that tank of gasoline. So he tosses it overside just in time. Kablooey! So he gets on the radio after he does a quick cleanup, airs the place out, and flushes all the gasoline off, making it safe again to use the radio. And he calls his buddy Charlie. And here's his buddy Charlie. Now here's the funny thing, because here's his buddy Charlie right here, and it's kind of a slightly stylized, slightly cartoonish version of the character. And yet here in this issue, it's the same character, much tighter, much more realistic, and has some nice panel continuity, some interesting page layouts at times. And he takes off, and he finds out. He says, "Yeah, this guy Yang, he snatched the girl. He's got the drugs." He said, he's part of one of the big boys with the international drug syndicate. Yada yada yada. So he finds out where to go, because Charlie knows all. And so he sneaks up on the island. Part 2: Dealers in Quiet Death. And there's Yang, and there's the drugs. Oh, look at that expression on his face. And here's the girl. And she's asking him, please don't do that, because she's so concerned about the heroin and the people that it'll harm and stuff. Well, he's concerned about all the money he's going to make when he cuts that into 10 kilos into 50 kilos. And how much money he's going to make. Millions of dollars. Okie dokie. Then says, "Your employer, Carter Primus, won't rescue you, my dear. That ridiculous houseboat of his must have burned and sunk by this time." "Don't count on it, mister. Primus is a hard man to kill." And that's right. He's got this little... He's sneaking up with the guard dogs. He's got this spray that Charlie had provided with him that kind of sedates the dogs. So they're not so... They're just kind of, okay, I'm friendly now. He's sneaking up. But well, here we see on the security videos. And this is some good, interesting, good storytelling here. You can see him. He's on camera. He doesn't know it. Sneaking around, trying to find everything until the guards say, "Hey, boss, there's this guy." He said, "Well, you're right. Carter Primus is a hard man to kill." And here you see him on this close-up, and here he is. Oh, there's a gun in the back of his head. Whoops. And that's a good bit of storytelling. So it takes Primus back to Yang. They're both prisoners. Makes him have to make the exchange, the drugs for the money. Okay. See, and here's some good, interesting worm's eye view, and he does some experimenting on stuff like that. And then this, like here, we see the figures in the reflection, because he has to meet the plane, make the drop, get the money, and no funny business. So the girl gets it, and he's got a sniper on him. So here he is catching the plane, makes the drop, but he's trying to figure out what he can do. He can't let the drugs and the drug dealers and stuff get away with all this product here. But he's got something up his sleeve. As the plane flies away, gets well away, and kablooey, it blows up in midair. Now that wasn't Yang. So without saying so, Primus had been thinking ahead, and he had some like a small explosive device on his person that they didn't find, which he put in the pack. He gets back with the money, and while Yang is distracted with the money, he makes his move. And before the goons can help Yang, Marlo, or whatever her name is, she goes into action too, because she's not entirely helpless herself. Hold all the bad guys at gunpoint, and getting the Coast Guard there to pick them all up. And then, well, he gets his reward. "Thank me, Tony." That's her name, Tony. "Like this, Primus." Ooh, big old smooch. And of course, these books usually had two stories. Again, you can see some more of his more interesting, like looser body language with the characters, more dynamic. It's not as stiff as in that first book, and of course it had a primary story and a backup story. And then, of course, there was here they had a page of text, and it's another story. Have nothing to do with Primus, just underwater stuff. The human fish. Some guy who had gills implanted in him or something like that. I don't remember how it is. Professor of marine life, whatever, and his adventures too. So that's all I've got of that story. This one here is kind of interesting because, of course, this was during the Nixon era, and it's got a comedian who is an impersonator of Richard Nixon, and the whole thing revolves around he's snatched, and he's supposed to, some bad guys, they're going to make trying to cause problems, international problems, by having this guy who looks and sounds like Richard Nixon tap into the hotline with the Soviet premier and cause troubles. And Primus has to take care of it. They're good, fun stories. Some action, nice underwater action, overall action. I always enjoyed them. So I don't know how the book really compares to the show, but I liked the book. I liked the comics. It's a lot of fun. And I especially liked Joe Staton's artwork at this time. Later on, when he was doing work for DC, his stuff kind of got stiffer again. As his style matured, he got away from some of the looseness that I thought was a good advantage for his art. It distinguished him from other artists. And so I didn't care for his work later in life. He's fully, I mean, I still like his work. He's a good artist, good storyteller, but I really liked his stuff at this period of his career. So that is what I've got for Ivan Tors Primus. Joe Gill, Joe Staton. And please like, share, subscribe. It's a nice introduction to the character if you've never heard of him. Please leave a comment. And remember, comics are art.